corrupt government cannot liberate the people. If the head of the stream is corrupt, the entire river will be also. I do not support corruption. Corruption takes money away from children's education. It deprives hospitals of basic necessities. It means that roads are not fixed. Corruption deepens inequality. It siphons off taxpayers' money to make a few cronies richer with the political connections instead of benefiting the people.
A blessed good day to you, my wisdom warriors. Wagwan, wagwan. I hope you guys are in good spirit.
Jamaica, the West Coast over there. So it's not like we're slow. We already know what's going on. But hey, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to let them come and feel like they're publicly announcing that Jamaica just, quote, hit oil. So let's just go with that narrative. Yeah, let's play naive and go with that narrative. So if tomorrow we come out publicly on Gleaner, Observer, on CVM, TVJ, and they say, Jamaica, we have found oil. Who owns it, Jamaica? Who own the oil if them find it tomorrow? Read your contracts, Jamaica. Who drills? Who extracts? Who profits? Who cleans up? Because republic statutes do not rewrite contracts. Because you become a republic, it does not rewrite the contracts. So you need to understand people versus paper. Because United Oil and Gas is going out there. They're already out there. So ask yourself them question. Who drills? Who extracts? Who profits? And who cleans up? Because they're not the ones that's going to clean up. They're going to drill. They're going to extract. They're going to profit. And Jamaica is going to be left to do the cleaning up when we have oil spills, oil blowouts, marine life destroyed, tsunami, earthquakes being triggered. We are the one that's going to be left with the disaster, the catastrophe, and left with babies suffering from all kind of illness. But we are not the ones that's going to extract profit. You see, paper owns more land in Jamaica than the people do. What me say? Paper owns more land in Jamaica than the people do. And paper does not vote. Paper does not starve. And paper does not migrate. People do. I'm not telling you how to vote, Jamaica. I'm telling you how to think. Because the most dangerous Jamaican is not an angry one. You hear me, Jamaica? The most dangerous Jamaican is not the little angry birds that run around things them a gangster. No, they're not the most dangerous Jamaicans. They're not dangerous at all. The most dangerous Jamaicans, yes, is a thinking self. A Republic Jamaica without reconstruction. Jamaica without reconstruction is just a renamed cage. It's just a new plantation with high level slaves. With slaves that can read and write. You hear me? It's just a new plantation with slaves that can read and write. Jamaica doesn't need another symbol. Jamaica needs ownership. Jamaica needs control. We need courage and we need memory. And the moment we stop confusing ceremony with freedom, in the moment real decolonization begins. Listen to me. You see, the court that still owns us, the Privy Council, Supreme Court, and the illusion of justice, let's address that. I need you to really sit still for this part, Jamaica, because at this point, it's not even politics. It's not even about emotion, and it's definitely not my opinion. This is the structure, Jamaica. And whoever controls this final court controls this country. Not the Prime Minister, not the so-called president they want to install, not even the flag, the final court. What does a final court really means, Jamaica? Let me explain this like I'm talking to a child, because power hides in complexity. Every country has a ladder of courts, right? Ladders of courts. You go to parish court, you go to Supreme Court, you go to Court of Appeal, and then there's the court above all others, Jamaica. That court decides what justice means. It decides what the law means. It decides what property means. It decides what rights means. It decides what contract means. Once that court speaks, the conversation, Jamaica, is over. Now, hear this clearly. Jamaica's final court was not designed by Jamaicans. No, it wasn't. The Privy Council is the colonial relic. The Privy Council is not Jamaican. It sits in England. It was created to serve the British Crown. It was designed to protect colonial order, imperial property, foreign ownership, and stability for investors. Tell me which part of that in the ear, Jamaica. I want you to tell me which part of that in the ear, Jamaica. It was created to serve the British Crown. The Privy Council, it was designed to protect colonial order, imperial property, foreign ownership, and stability for investors, not stability for Jamaicans. Tell me which part of that? You're here, Jamaicans. It was not designed for liberation. It was not designed for redistribution of land or wealth. It was not designed for ancestral justice or anything like that. So ask yourself something honest, Jamaica. How can you be fully decolonized when your highest court was designed to protect colonial interests? Huh? How can you be fully decolonized when your highest court was designed to protect colonial interests? But you're going to say to me, but Fifth Element, we have our own Supreme Court. Jamaica, that's the trap. Some people will say it. But Jamaica has its own Supreme Court. Listen carefully. A Supreme Court that answers to a higher external court is not supreme. Can I say that again? Can I say that again? A Supreme Court that answers to a higher external court is not supreme. It is a middle manager. Yes, that's what you call a middle manager. It can rule until it rules against power. And then it is corrected. Okay? So yes, that middle manager can rule, but if it's going to rule against its power, it is corrected by the higher courts. So why does this matter for land, oil, and money, Jamaica? Let me bring this home for some of us. If a foreign company owns land in Jamaica and there is a dispute, whose law protects them? In Jamaica, if a foreign company owns land in Jamaica and there is a dispute, whose law protects them? If Jamaica tries to change mining terms and a company sues Jamaica, who decides? If Jamaica says the resource belongs to the people, what court interprets that statement? Colonial courts protect contracts. They don't protect people. Contracts signed over unequal power are still enforced as legal. Let me say that again. You see, contracts that are signed under unequal power, they're still enforced as legal. Now let's talk about the CCJ illusion, the Caribbean Court of Justice. This is very important, Jamaica. Someone gonna said to me, we should move to the Caribbean Court of Justice. And listen, that is a step. But don't let steps fool you into thinking that you've arrived. Because the CCJ still operates under British common law. It still protects property frameworks. It still enforces colonial economic logic. The courtroom might move, but the philosophy will not, Jamaica. And law, Jamaica, is a weapon, it's not a shield. Colonialism did not survive by force alone. It survived by paperwork, by contracts, by courts, and by legal language. You see, that is why modern colonialization does not send soldiers anymore. What they send you is lawyers, okay? So why a ceremonial president changes nothing in Jamaica branded? If the president is ceremonial and the courts protect capital and parliament protects its investors, then who the heck Jamaica protect us? Who is protecting the people? Huh? Let me ask you again. If the president is ceremonial and the courts protect capital and the parliament protects the investors, who is protecting Jamaicans? The people. Who's protecting the people? No one. No one. And that's done by design. You are expected to survive Jamaica, not to rule. No Jamaican naga rule. You're just expected to survive. And the most dangerous illusions that we live under, Jamaica. Yes, the most dangerous illusion that we've been living under and that we've been told, Jamaica, is that justice is neutral. Justice, Jamaica, is never neutral. Justice serves whoever designed it. Let that sink in. So on the ball for justice, remember, say it's not neutral. It's only it serves those that design it. Okay? So what real decolonized justice would require? If we really had real decolonized justice, what would it require? Real decolonization would mean this, Jamaica. Rewriting legal philosophy. Redefining property. Centering people over profit. Restoring land rights. Limiting foreign extraction. And making justice answer to the people. That is what justice would require for real decolonization. That is revolutionary. And that is why it is avoided, Jamaica.
I contributed to the debate on the Financial Investigations Division Amendment Act today, and I wanted to make the simple point that the inclusion of a clause that would allow the investigations of the FID to be subject to government policy was bad for democracy. By that, I emphasize that separation of powers is important in democracy. You want a distinction to be made between the executive, the legislative arm, and the enforcement arm.
Today in the Senate, I made my contribution to the debate on the Financial Investigations Division Amendment Act. I made the point that Jamaica must continue in its effort to combat financial crimes. But in doing so, we must respect mechanisms that allow for accountability. I called attention to a particular provision in the bill that said that the Chief Technical Director can share relevant information or information that is relevant to a prosecution of a particular crime or an investigation. In essence, I said that there should be a degree of objective criteria that determines what relevance is. In the current drafting in the legislation, it appears to be too broad. in its explanation.
Today I contributed to the debate on the amendment of the Financial Investigation Divisions Act, where I made an intervention to encourage the government to go back to looking at including unexplained wealth orders in the poker proceedings, simply because it's an additional tool in this very dynamic and important fight against money laundering and anti-corruption.
There was an interesting development today in the Senate in the debate on the Financial Investigations Division Act, the Amendment Act 2026. There's a particular provision that we want to bring attention to. In Section 2, subsection 4, A, II, it says nothing in subsection 1 or 2 authorizes a disclosure by the Chief Technical Director unless there exists between the Chief Technical Director and the relevant party a memorandum of understanding or other arrangement that is consistent with the Constitution of Jamaica and the laws of Jamaica. That's fine. But the problematic part is government policy. And why is this being directed on the whims or fancies of any particular minister of government or cabinet decision? We find this particular provision to be problematic.
Actually seeking a clarification at this stage, because I too had a level of concern about the fact that the memorandum of understanding or other arrangement that is consistent with the Constitution of Jamaica and the laws of Jamaica and the government policy. And you have explained by pointing to various pieces of legislation and agreements what you mean by government policy. And I wondered, Minister, if you had, in the drafting of the bill, it had been contemplated that there might be government policy which is at dissonance with the Constitution. Because yes, that's the point. That's the point I was going on to make. That government policy ought to be bound by the Constitution. And I wondered why this curious insertion of adding government policy, Constitution of Jamaica, and the government policy. Because there's a kind of dissonance about including government policy.
Our side was adamant that this particular provision cannot be allowed. So in the committee stage, we asked for a divide, which simply means it's a process where individual members would indicate whether they want to support an amendment or not. And the amendment was brought by Senate leader on our side, Senator Donna Scott Motley, who indicated that she wants this particular provision to be removed. All senators on our side voted in support of Senator Scott Motley's amendment. Regrettably, all members present today on the government side voted against that amendment, which means that the bill will be passed with the provision government policy. That is problematic.
I contributed to the debate on the FAA Act.
There is therefore a broader fiscal message that could be embedded in this amendment, Mr. President, that deserves some careful reflection. Right? And remember, eyes are on us. By having an exit point from mandatory contributions, while the government may secure some short-term budgetary flexibility, it could do so at the potential cost of long-term resilience. Right? For a country as exposed as Jamaica, preparedness and defense against these risks must be consistent, dependable, and must have highest priority in the context of budgetary expenses. Because it's not some arbitrary balance sheet or set of numbers that gets affected under these circumstances. It's Jamaican households that bear the consequences when disaster strikes.
In the Senate today, I made my contribution in the debate related to the Financial Administration and Audit Act. I posited two main points. The first being, after showing our maturity and development towards a layered risk management approach towards disaster recovery strategy, I posited that we should not at this point take a step back by stopping the mandatory transfer of funds from the consolidated fund to the NNDRF. Now, I understand that at any point in time, government priorities may change, especially in a year like this year, where we are still dealing with ensuring that our Jamaican citizens most impacted by the hurricane are actually receiving relief and appropriate relief. I was happy to hear the government senators speak about caring about social needs of our people, because that is a position of the administration of the People's National Party and would always be. So my compromise was, why not, rather than instituting a certain amount each year, institute a certain amount over a period of time. Secondly, I thought it was very important for me to call on the government to consider a future revision of the Act to ensure that we included things around monitoring, governance and reporting. Reason, we see recently where the first preliminary reports of the Auditor General indicate that there have been opportunities lost or missing for proper oversight and governance. And so at this point in time, we don't know, one, about the constitution of the committees that oversee the fund, and two, we don't know anything about how the fund is managed or governed.
Jamaican people want better. Economy coming like stormy weather. Ancestors are turning on them grave. They can tell me how we can do it together. When we look at the future of precipice, we see Jamaica needs the vision of the PNP. People said the bag of promises them can't carry.
My wisdom warriors, I guess I'm going to let you know, want to tell me what you think, want to tell me how you feel about all this, and put an honest opinion in the comment section. Like the video, share it out, and subscribe to my channel. And if you're new to my channel, welcome people. Don't forget, you want to run over to Politics Corner, subscribe to Pastor Little channel. Remember to run over to my channel, Lady Press, and subscribe. Talk your mind, the same speed, subscribe. Cockmouth Killcock, same speed, subscribe. And remember Bolo, remember Mystic Sensation, Andre, the whole works, my people. Wanna just show everybody some love, alright? Blessings upon blessings.
And I don't want the right that stupid argument. Hold the people you elect accountable and stop making excuses for them.